Good evening. It is January 28th. It's 5:30 p.m. Welcome to the special Board of Directors meeting. Please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Nevaeh has the land acknowledgement.
Evergreen Public Schools resides on the traditional lands of the Chinookan peoples and the Cowlitz tribes. They have lived on and cared for this land and its waterways since time immemorial. We thank them for their stewardship and make this acknowledgement to open a space of recognition, inclusion, and respect for all Indigenous students, families, and staff in our community.
Thank you. Is Karen Ormson here? Karen? She might be with the students. We have it. Okay. There they go. We have a wonderful performance by our union percussion students.
Good evening. This is the Union High School Percussion Quartet, and so they're excited to be here, and they will be playing one piece for you tonight. It's called Bulldog, and so while you're listening, you might picture a bulldog. It was written by the composer Andrea Vanette, and she said this piece is intended to be fun, short, sturdy, thick, and sweet, like a bulldog. So I hope you enjoy.
That was amazing.
Thank you guys so very much. That was amazing. We appreciate you for coming out and spending the evening with us.
Can you introduce yourselves?
Cameron. I'm Matt. I'm Jackson. And I'm Mac.
What grade are you in?
I'm senior. Senior. I'm a junior. Junior.
Okay.
Really musical. Is it a competition piece?
Yeah, it is. We're playing for state. If we make the state.
You'll make it.
Yeah.
Thank you for bringing that.
Yes.
It was like a fighting bulldog.
Very aggressive.
And I'm curious about that one instrument there. Is that from Auto Shop or
This is the China symbol.
or the one?
Oh, wait, this one?
Yeah.
It's from Auto Shop, yeah.
We have to be multi-purpose.
What's it called?
Brake drum. Oh,
From a brain.
Even more musical.
Well, thank you
All
very
All right,
much.
thanks
luck
so
in the
much for
competition.
having us. We're gonna exit out the door with our equipment out here. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. We'll give it a moment. All right, next item on the agenda is to adopt the agenda. Is there a motion?
I move that we adopt tonight's agenda as presented.
second.
Director Grunwald moves that we adopt the agenda as presented, seconded by Director Wilson. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. The next item is public comment. Any community member wishing to address the board may do so during the designated time on the agenda for public comments. Comments are to be directed to the board of directors as a whole and may not be addressed to any individual member of the board, the administrative staff, or the audience. Although the board will not engage in dialogue, the board chair may ask a speaker a clarifying question or follow up at a later time on an issue raised during public comment. The first person on our list is Camille Lohman. Good evening, Camille.
Good evening. My name is Camille, and between my child and my 4 bonus kiddos, I saw the levy announcement sent out yesterday on Parent Square from 4 different schools. I watched the YouTube videos from each of the principals, who all seemed to be just reading off of a script, the same exact script, actually, which made the line about what the levy pays for at their school feel particularly disingenuous, because it's the same exact thing at all the schools. So what initially seemed like an attempt to communicate with their individual school community turned into something that lacked humanness or any genuine connection, which is vital when it comes to this type of ask. But I don't think this is the fault of any of the principals, as this type of communication sounds exactly like the rest of what the district shares, where every email just reads like a press release. When Dr. Maloney was first hired and she sent out introduction emails, there was a sense of hope and warmth throughout the way her words were communicated. There was a stark and noticeable positive difference with her communication style. However, that warm tone that was full of hope has for some reason faded, and this was especially noticeable with the most recent email sent out last Thursday about protections for immigrant students. A topic so heavy for so many was not communicated with the care that it deserved, especially in contrast with how neighboring districts communicated with their communities about this topic. And it just generally did not sound like a message from Dr. Maloney herself. The district has a history of being on the defense rather than repairing harm, and only disclosing what they think people want to hear rather than being transparent about everything. For example, $3.4 million of the levy dollars was spent on district office employee salaries in 2024. I understand that this is an allowable expense to pay up to 25% of staff salaries with levy money, but that's 7.5% of the levy money for the year. And I've watched every single levy video, every single sit down with a suit, every board meeting. I've read through every piece of levy material available, and no PowerPoint slide or handout or video has made any mention of this. Even the 16-minute sit down with the soup from last week with all the graphics about the percentages of the budget paid for by the levy did not mention this. I know that the district has to be careful with how they communicate about the levy. I know that due to budget cuts, everyone's working long hours, but that glimmer of hope for transparent communication that was there at the beginning of the school year no longer feels present. In this economy and all the unknowns ahead across the nation, the unknowns looming all the way up from the federal level with funding, this is not the time for AI-written emails or the lack of humanness in the community. The thought of a levy not passing is terrifying. And the thought of a levy not passing is terrifying, and I know we all feel that way. But the AI-written emails, and again, the lack of humanness in this communication has to stop.
Thank you. Thank you. Next person on our list is Catherine Furtick. Good evening, Catherine.
Good evening. My name is Catherine Furtick. I have 3 graduates of EPS and 1 senior. People vote on connection or disconnection with a person or issue. Consider people don't care what you know until they know you care. I would take that a step further. If they don't know you at all, you can't even get that far. Unlike any other district leadership role, the board is voted in, dependent on formed connection with the community. Stakeholders feel more disconnected than ever following the strikes, cuts, and revolving leadership, and the board members are inevitably the faces of leadership representing frustration and discontent. The only thing compelling many right now is frustration. For people to humanize you, you need interaction. Lack of connection and understanding enables the community to automatically think and believe the worst of you when they're frustrated and upset. I have some suggestions based on comments within our community for connection opportunities. And I recognize it is challenging to find a balance within constraints that many don't realize limit you while engaging stakeholders. Having a follow-up to the December levy meeting for the community that could address continued questions. Community members, upon seeing vote yes yard signs, have commented that they would like in-person information. Our neighboring districts have held multiple meeting opportunities for the community. Opportunities for questions to be asked would be helpful and could be moderated. Without this, we risk significantly the potential for appearance of lacking transparency. Another connection opportunity is email. I realize you are limited in the scope of your responses to concerns, but many have shared that it's difficult to get a response at all, wondering if their email was even read, not just by the board, but also within admin at the ASC. Yes, there are constraints, but with little to no acknowledgement or dialogue, frustration and disconnect are sure to follow, as shared concerns serve to guide you in the needs of your community and representing them. I would like to also acknowledge and appreciate the meetings offered recently to stakeholders interested in legislative advocacy. This is a great start I'd like to see continue. Caring about the community begins with connection and engagement. It requires actions and words, but you have to start somewhere. You have to communicate. I also have appreciated observing the board workshops. I've learned a lot more than I realized, and I think there's a lot the community could still learn also. I would like to encourage you, along with all district employees, from a janitor to our highest leadership roles, in whatever capacity you can, join together with the community to walk with signs and wave to support our levy. Thank you.
Thank you. Next item on our agenda is the board consent agenda. Is there a motion?
Sorry. I move to approve tonight's board's consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Director Grunwald moves to move it as presented, seconded by Director Perkins. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Moved. Next item is our superintendent consent agenda. Is there a motion?
I move adoption of the superintendent's consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Moved by Director Perkins, seconded by Director Grunwald. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Moved. Next item on our agenda is matters reserved for board action. Let's give us a moment for this one. These are their next steps in hiring our new superintendent. We will be moving candidates forward for our first round interviews. We will be moving that with letters as designators. Is there a motion to advance a candidate for first round interviews?
I have a motion. I move that we advance the candidate designated with letter W for first round interview.
Second. Go ahead.
Director Perkins moves that we advance candidate W for a first round interview with board on February 11th or February 13th. Director Grunwald seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, that's one. Any other motions?
I move that we move forward candidate V as in Victor.
Second.
Director Grunwald moves that we advance candidate V for first round interviews with the board on February 13th. Director Perkins seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any other motions?
I move that we move forward candidate letter T as in Tom.
Second.
Director Bocanegra moves that we move forward advance candidate T for a first round interview with the board on February 13th, seconded by Director Grunwald. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any other motions?
I like to move candidate U forward for interviews.
Second.
Candidate U. Perkins. Director Grunwald has moved that we advance candidate U for first round interviews with the board on February 13th, seconded by Director Perkins. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any other motions?
One more. I have one. I like to move candidate Y through to next round of interviews. I'd like to have a motion. That's a motion.
I'll second that.
All right, so candidate Y.
Yeah.
Director Grunwald moves that we move candidate Y to advance to first round interviews with the board on February 13th, seconded by Director Bocanegra. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. So, Lori, did we get all that? Okay. All right, so then we will have our first round interviews on February 13th. Okay. All right. Next item on our agenda is a presentation from Director of Human Resources, Tracy Thompson.
I'm not standing in for Tracy.
Senior Director, sorry.
Maybe there'll be a presentation. Go old-fashioned. Oh, wait, oh, there we go. Thank you.
Good evening, Dr. Maloney, President Weatherspoon, and Board of Directors. I have the pleasure of bringing you information about our annual employee compliance training. So, of course, our administrators and our certificated staff and our classified staff have training through our professional development with our TLE department, with IT, with safety and security, et cetera, but that won't be my focus today. My focus is more on the compliance training that's required. So annually, all employees of the district do Safe Schools training, which is through Vector. And there's kind of two ways we organize employees. It's through non-student facing and student facing. Student facing has the greater liability, so that's going to be my focus of what I'll share with you today. So due each fall and monitored by supervisors for completion, including late hires. So late hires throughout the year are also monitored for completion. The complete the Safe Schools training. We also schedule these yearly based on state law, on district policy, and on our insurance requirements. So you can see there's some that are required every year, and then there's some that we rotate through. Even if a topic isn't part of the Safe Schools, you'll see that it will be part of the Back to School Slides training that happens yearly. New employees then would have sort of the rest. So if child abuse, for example, wasn't part of the Safe Schools training for all student-facing employees that year, then that year the new employees would get that training so that all new employees would have that every year. We also make sure they complete their technology user agreement, and this is for all employees that are student-facing, so administrators, teachers, certificated support staff, and classified staff. Additionally, we do the annual back to school training slides. So Human Resources collaborates with all departments for this. So TLE, maintenance, we collaborate with special education, federal programs, IT, to put together the training slides annually. You can see these are the topics that are on the slides for certificated staff. These are also monitored by building supervisors, and they notify me when their staff has completed the certificated training by September 30th. And you can see some of the information is repeated from what they have longer training on the Safe Schools slides, but then again, they may not get that Safe School training that year, so it's duplicated on the back to school slides. And then there's some other information too around like their benefits and payroll, et cetera. We also have the back to school slides for the classified employees. It's not quite as in-depth. For instance, they don't have the code of conduct on there, but we do a lot of the same policies such as boundary invasion, whistleblowing, et cetera, that we have done with the certificated. And these employees have theirs done by October 30th or within 60 days of hiring if they are a late hire, which we have more late hires in the classified we hire throughout the year, so we track that training throughout the year. We also annually hold 3 operations meetings. We start having one in August prior to school starting, and then we do them again in a winter session and then a spring session. The attendance is for building and district leaders. If they aren't able to come, not every person from the building can come, so they have access to the information, and their principal would share that with them if like an associate principal couldn't come. The format is sometimes information getting, but it's also a lot of times we organize the training through scenarios so that leaders can talk with each other, problem solve together, look at policy together, et cetera, as they learn about the different topics that we bring forward. We also have, on the operational side of the house, the supervisors and administrators in the operational departments meet quarterly to go over some more specific training geared towards more the operational side. And those are some of the topics that we cover annually in their training. And then finally, besides training the operational evaluators with their evaluation documents, we also monitor the evaluation training that's required by law. So any new certificated supervisor, like a principal, a new associate principal, we monitor that they receive the Danielson training and on writing evaluations. And then new principals who supervise APs will also, we monitor to make sure they complete the AWSP training. Do you have any questions for me?
Can you go back to that slide?
Which one?
Just the one previous one. Yeah, AWSP, thanks. I wonder if, for the sake of those who might not be as in the weeds as I am about things, could you describe the Danielson framework and how that applies to teachers in, I don't know, 5 sentences or less?
In 5 sentences or less? No, Mr. Perkins, I cannot.
I accept that.
Next question.
I accept that. That's the teacher performance framework, right?
Correct. The Danielson framework is the teacher performance framework. So there's the state put out the law with TPEP that there's 3 frameworks to choose from. Our district had been a Danielson framework district prior to the TPEP law, so we continued with the Danielson framework. Last 2022, Charlotte Danielson Group rewrote the frameworks, and next year we will do the update. We will have the updated frameworks as part of our training, and we're already started training people on the updated frameworks.
Thanks, I appreciate that.
That was close to 5 sentences. I put some ands and semicolons in there, so I was fine.
I saw the look on your eyes and had to make it more.
I could talk for hours about the Danielson framework, so that's why I said it was.
We'd probably lose the focus that we need tonight. Thank you. Thanks very much.
Any other questions? Thank you. Next item on our agenda is our Teaching, Learning, and Equity Update with Dr. Brian Fox. Good evening.
Good evening, President Weatherspoon and members of the board. This evening we have 3 items to share in our Teaching, Learning, and Equity Update. On this slide you'll see I'd like to talk briefly about our band program in the district, student achievement and indicators of growth, as well as online options, a presentation from Dr. Heather Fowler. Excuse me. The performance was a wonderful way to start our meeting, wasn't it? It was loud and awesome, and I went out and thanked our performers. Once again, I'd like to promote EPS music classes as a place where we can find students succeeding and achieving in amazing ways. Tonight we heard from music students at Union High School, where 450 students are enrolled in music classes, which is 22% of the student population. And I want to thank Union High School band members and Director Adam Morrell for sharing music this evening. The Union band program is made up of 5 different bands and a percussion class and includes 200 students. This evening we heard from a percussion quartet, one of 25 student-led ensembles. This part I think is pretty cool. One of 25 student-led ensembles that rehearse on their own time, before or after school, and who compete at our regional solo and ensemble competition in February. And talking with Corinne earlier this morning about that, she's very proud of that, and we should be, that we've got students who are motivated to do that work and rehearse and practice for competitions on their own direction. In Evergreen Public Schools, did I change the slide? There we go. In Evergreen Public Schools, band students enjoy a number of benefits from participation in band, including a sense of belonging and connection, leadership, teamwork, creativity, self-expression, cognitive development, socialization, time management, life skills, discipline, perseverance, relaxation, and lower stress, even while pounding on automotive parts, and self-confidence. In EPS, we have, now's my slide, 712 students enrolled in band across 5 high schools, over 1,000 middle schoolers across 6 schools, and in the elementary schools, we have 450 students who participate in 5th grade band. In total, over 2,100 students are band members in Evergreen Public Schools, something we should be proud of. Next, at your meeting 2 weeks ago, we highlighted schools who have worked hard to improve attendance and celebrated district-wide increase of 6% in attendance. That's great success due to the hard work of school staff, students, and families. Getting learners in the classroom is the first step to improved student achievement. In addition, Dr. Fowler presented you with some participation data from our first district-wide focused interim assessment block. The results of the assessment have been processed further by Director of School Improvement and Accountability, Karen Fox, and Assessment and Research Coordinator Nathan Lee, and I'd like to share some additional information with you tonight. 11,140 students completed the first district-directed focused interim assessment block for English language arts last fall. On this graph, you'll see the results for the ELA components of vocabulary and comprehension. November results show 24%, the green section, proficiency above standard, and 53% at or near standard. And so when combined, this means that 77% of EPS students were above, at, or near standard in these two areas, vocabulary and comprehension. These two areas of reading development in November, the beginning of the year, and they're showing this kind of results. We're celebrating that. We think that's pretty good. As teachers keep providing great instruction, and as students keep working hard, and as parents continue their strong support of students, we will continue to see improved student achievement. And thirdly, finally, as a follow-up to a boundary waiver data that I presented in the fall, I'd like to invite Dr. Heather Fowler to the podium. She will be making a presentation on multi-district online school feasibility at this time.
Good evening, President Weatherspoon, Board of Directors, Student Representative. Tonight I am joining you to discuss the feasibility of establishing a multi-district online school. I will attempt to walk and chew gum here at the same time here. All right. So the impetus for me being here this evening was from Dr. Fox's October 22nd TLE presentation to the board on boundary exception data that indicated almost 600 Evergreen public school students attend out-of-district online schools on choice transfers. And this is the data slide that he shared. So that is why I'm here tonight. So as I was putting together this feasibility overview, there are key considerations, and my primary objective is to evaluate whether scaling our online school to serve multiple districts is practical, sustainable, and aligned to our mission. To do this, I focused on three key areas: analyzing the financial costs of scaling compared with projected enrollment, developing academic programming that ensures students meet graduation requirements and have access to rigorous coursework, and designing a program rooted in equity and accessibility that addresses the diverse needs of all students, including our most marginalized populations. To guide this analysis and provide a structured approach to the planning, several key assumptions were made, which are critical to understanding the feasibility of expanding to a multi-district online school. When determining staffing levels, I relied on the working conditions outlined in our collective bargaining agreement. While our previous multi-district online school operated under a memo of understanding that allowed for significantly larger daily caseloads due to the unique nature of online learning, for this analysis, I've used a daily caseload of 150 students per day per full-time teacher. This provides a conservative and realistic baseline for staffing needs. I've also assumed an attrition rate of 15 to 20%. This is based on common challenges in online education, such as self-discipline and structured study habits it demands, which can be a barrier for some students. And finally, our first-year enrollment would be projected to be about 250 students across grades 9 through 12. For context, Legacy Online currently enrolls about 130 students, so this represents a significant growth. Additionally, we would anticipate around 20% of these students will require special education services, which underscores the importance of planning for differentiated supports and resources. These assumptions provide the foundation for analyzing the staffing, the resources, and supports necessary to successfully expand. And next, we'll take a closer look at how the factors influence our broader planning considerations. For staffing, scaling to a multi-district provider requires significant investment in staffing. Using the daily caseload of 150 students for teachers, we would need approximately 13.5 FTE in certificated teaching staff for an estimated yearly cost of $1,944,000. Additional staffing, we would estimate 4.0 in classified FTE and one administrator that would total $480,000. When we look at the total staffing costs and our basic ed apportionment of $10,037 dollars per student. There is a difference of $85,000, yet we also have to consider other costs that are associated with online schools. And this slide highlights additional costs we would need to account for as part of the expansion, including items such as a learning platform subscription and our indirect costs here at 9%. To achieve the enrollment targets, we would also need a strong outreach campaign to attract new students and recover Evergreen students who are currently enrolled in out-of-district online programs. Here we have an overview of our estimated startup and reoccurring costs. So to start with, I have accounted for the basic ed apportionment as a primary source of revenue. The funding is calculated based on projected enrollment and serves as the foundation for the budget. Next are our total staffing costs, including average salaries with benefits, and these obviously represent our most significant expenses. Platform subscription costs are another key expense. The reoccurring cost is essential to providing a quality online environment for both students and staff. Our indirect costs have been also factored in at the 9%. And while these costs are not fixed, we've calculated them at that percentage that is equivalent to a comprehensive high school. The costs result in an overall budget shortfall of about $239,000 when compared to the projected basic ed apportionment. The shortfall highlights the needs for adjustments to the program's expenses, specifically in the area of staffing to achieve financial viability. And then for a timeline, we would not be able to start a new online multi-district provider school till the 26-27 school year. So if you work backward, we would start the process this August, preparing our OSPI application materials. In November, we have to submit an intent to apply. So we would have that information ready to send to OSPI, where we also meet with somebody from the alternative learning environment to discuss the application. In January, starting on January 1st, we can submit our application to OSPI. It can take up to 6 months for approval. That is not the standard, but always they want to give you the most amount of time there. And during that time, we would also work on that outreach for students, which would end in launching the multi-district school in 26-27. And here are some questions for consideration as we determine the feasibility of expanding our current online school. Addressing them thoughtfully will help us determine whether the expansion is both feasible and aligned with the goals in our strategic plan. And all this is to say that establishing a multi-district online school is feasible with careful planning, strategic staffing, and financial management. Challenges do exist, and addressing them proactively can create a successful program. Also, I believe Lori made available to you the 3-page document I put together with more details that drill down into things like CATERS and state testing and more details that I did not go into here. But I am available to answer questions for you now if you have any.
Can you talk about what these indirect costs would be, this 9%?
Well, so I worked with Kim Noah in our finance department to think about what those indirects would be. We use the 9% as what we use for our comprehensive schools, which includes our facilities, things that go into that. One of the ideas would be that we could actually house this in our first floor in district office that is now available, and that space or indirects would be much less because we wouldn't need to be taking that money out of that. So, but we did put it in there to give the idea, like, this is what it could be. The idea would be we would have it to be less, so, yeah.
Well, I would imagine supplies, technology, all those other factors, right? For
like MSOCs and yeah. And so like the learning platform would be part of the MSOCs as well.
with the technology for the staff
Yes.
and the students.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Oh, and you mentioned we're estimating about 250 students, and it shows their basic ed apportionment, about 2.5 million. So that's about 10,000 per student. That sounds accurate to me.
Yeah, basic ed is about 10,037.85.
Right. And you were looking, though, at 20% possibly being special ed students, and their apportionment would be slightly higher. I think it's like 1,000 or 1,500 more per student.
To serve for so I don't have that number precisely. We just use a straight basic ed apportionment to give us a standard. We would receive extra money from our special services, also knowing it's not fully funded.
Right, right. So I'm just thinking we'd probably get about 50 to 75,000, possibly more in that case, and that would at least bring the difference to maybe 150,000 rather than.
Possibly.
Yeah, so.
And one of the largest areas is staffing, obviously. And as the second question here, this is one of the larger questions, is how do we work with labor partners to align those working conditions with the unique needs of online schools? It is different because we don't have students every day in our classrooms. We're not doing the planning and things. So previously, we did have an MOU with our online school that did have an increase in your daily caseload as well as an increase in number of preps that one could teach. And so that would help us. But again, I used our current collective bargaining agreement to provide the most realistic. If we were to do it today based on what we have, this is what it would look like.
Okay. Would there be any federal funds coming in to help these costs, or?
Not that I know of, no. We receive just as we would for a comprehensive high school.
Okay.
Yeah.
And let's say, 150 students, let's say that's the number we get.
Mm-hmm.
I think the only thing that isn't, or the only constant here is that platform subscription, that 102.
Well, and that could also be less as well. So we currently use Edmentum for Legacy Online, Home Choice Academy, and our credit recovery platform. We do get a discount based on the number of subscriptions. We pay a per student subscription, and there are additional fees for things such as like CCTE courses or courses outside a standard core schedule that do cost. And so it would just depend. And those things are negotiable usually, yes.
Yeah, it sounds like it would be similar if we got less students or more.
It could be similar, yes.
The difference would, fluctuate a little, but not.
Probably not a significant amount, no.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I recall when the multi-district, certification was withdrawn back when John Dieter was superintendent, out of a concern that students weren't getting what they needed by learning remotely. And I'm sure there's lessons that have been learned since then about that, especially through the pandemic. My question is, and I'm asking this as a member of the OSPI Online Learning Advisory Committee, recognizing that 70% of public school applications for this fail on the first try, and there has to be an appeal. I'd love an opportunity to discuss that with you and
Absolutely.
share some.
Sounds like you're volunteering to help.
I'm pretty much, I'm volunteering to help. But it dovetails with some advocacy that needs to take place.
Yep, thank you. Anything?
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Next item on our agenda is our superintendent report. Dr. Maloney.
All right. Thank you very much. I have lots to talk about today. I want to let you know that I did start my morning at Ellsworth Elementary and got to witness an incredible, fun PBIS assembly where we had students interacting with the character trait of kindness is what they were sharing that morning. And then they also had a fun little a competition with students with a little spoon and a marshmallow and trying not to spill the marshmallow onto the gym floor as they run back and forth between some cones. So lots of fun there and great things happening in the classrooms. That's just one of the 4 schools I've been in the last 4 days. So just wanted to share that with you. That was a fun thing to begin with. So I'm going to ask our Senior Director of Communications to come up. And speaking of students, we have a student video.
My video.
A junior at Union High School. Hello, I'm Audrey McChesney, a junior at Union High School, and today I'd like to tell you about one of 2 replacement levies that Evergreen Public Schools is putting on the February 11th, 2025 ballot, and the programs and positions that this levy will fund. The Educational Programs and Operations Levy, Proposition 7, will replace an expiring levy passed in 2022. It is not a new tax. The EP&O levy will help pay for extracurricular activities, including athletics and cheer programs, and orchestra, band, choir, and theater programs. Think of the pep band you might see at a Friday night football game, or choir concert. Extracurricular programs like these are funded 100% with levy dollars. This replacement levy will also help fund the coaches and teachers who run these programs. For more information on these replacement levies, please visit the district's website at evergreenps.org/levy. Please remember to vote on February 11th, 2025. Thanks for watching. Hello.
So we've heard from Union students, the fabulous percussion, and then also this great student here. And as a district, we are required to provide information only. And so as much as I'd love to do other things with information regarding the levy, we're not allowed to do that in our roles. And that is set for the citizens side, their promotional campaigns. So the closest we could get without going over the line for PDC was having our students represented in the video sharing information. So there's lots of other ones that are coming out as well. So we have a number already that have been out and posted out on our social media and then sent to our schools and our staffs and community. So, all right. I had the opportunity, I am part of the Greater Clark County Rotary Club, and there were 4 students of the month that was celebrated last Thursday from Heritage High School for a variety of different reasons, ranging from academic to community service to leadership within the school. So that was a great opportunity for our students to be recognized by a community service club. And they were quite honored to be there and earned an award and also a little gift card too from the club. So great representation there, and the principal is there to share some wonderful words about the great things that our students are doing, not only in the school, but again, in the community. As you know, we've received different information. Just recently, there was some information provided to us, and not a lot, around federal funds that have been frozen or may be frozen. There is a court order now waiting until February 3rd to get some more clarity on that. It is evolving, probably as I speak, about different things that are happening with that. And IDEA and Title I are not affected, and they're waiting for more clarity around other things. So as soon as I get information, I will be sharing that out. And then also we have some guidance that did come from OSPI regarding refugee and immigrant families. And so that has been shared out as well, the information that we have. I have some meetings coming up, not only with superintendents, but also with city officials. And we will be working to support all our children in our classrooms. So, okay. Today I get to, this is the last day the last meeting in January, and this was the deadline for my my interim superintendent entry plan. And so each of you have a copy of that, and if you kind of flip through that, you notice there's some green check boxes, and there should be a green check box in everything. So I've been a little busy, and I managed to check off all of these things. I did get feedback from the board, periodically throughout the fall, and made some tweaks and some changes on some things, but I've gone through all of these. And I have done that police ride along, but I also have Clark County Sheriff, and that'll be February 28th, if I remember the right date. So I've got that one going in. So what I have done is provided you priority goal areas. I shared this back in August, and this is where part of my contract is to provide you with priority goal areas. And so I did that, and I also put in my entry plan goals. So what I have done is looked at my entry plan goals, let you know that I have completed all the action items that I said I was going to do under each one of those entry plan goals. And then I provided some extra information of things maybe above and beyond, or things that I thought that were important for you to know, learnings, things that I have gleaned from conversations, whether they're with individuals, with staff, parents, community members, administrators, and a variety of different events and meetings. And again, sometimes just the offhand, passing in the hallway and having having a conversation. So I have been gathering information and put those together in some themes that have bubbled up and things that that I would like to take a closer look at moving forward, and some things I've already begun to address. So I'm going to share a couple things here. In my conversations with parents and with staff members, administrators, communities, et cetera, some things that I have discovered may be one-offs, right? So for example, I had a conversation with a parent and they were talking about the boundary letters and how impersonal it felt. And so that was just a one-off. That was not a whole bunch of people telling me about the boundary letters, okay? And so I went back and we worked with the team and said, oh yeah, let's look at our boundary letters and how they feel when you read them, right? And so the team got together and said, hey, you know what? This has just been a form letter I've been using for a long time. Let's make this more user-friendly. So we're gonna be kinder than necessary, right? And so that was just an adjustment, just small, not a theme for everything, you know, lots of people talking about it, but just a small little adjustment that's happened. So there's been lots of little things like that that have been occurring as I come across things that we can be, you know, hey, let's we have a little bit of time, let's try to adjust that and make that a little bit user-friendly and that system better. Okay. So for the first goal that I had was to develop and strengthen governance team, board, superintendent relationships. So we're meeting bi-weekly with the new board president coming in, check-ins with the board regarding expectations and aligning my priority goals with the operational expectations. So that was a key piece there that I did this fall that was not part of my entry plan, and providing those summary impressions of the operational expectations. So that was something separate that was not part of that originally. So I wanted to draw your attention that I completed those. On my second goal, which is gain a deeper understanding the organizational capacity and efforts in ensuring students are academically, emotionally, and socially successful, ready for post-secondary opportunities. Completed all the action items underneath number 2 there. But I do want to draw your attention. One of the themes, and I talked about this in some of the communications that I've sent out to staff and to our families, was hope for the future. A lot of people said, you know, hey, we're looking for stability, we're looking for mending of relationships or building of new relationships, communication, more in a feedback loop, and looking at systems that serve. And this came from conversations with parents and with staff, with students, and with community members. And so that was an ongoing theme there. A couple other ones there that was really high up on the list and high in priorities for quite a few groups was special education. And so I'll talk about that a little bit later. Student safety came up, and so there was conversations around that, particularly with some parents and some staff. Academic intervention. Okay, and I'll talk a little bit about that a little bit later. Definitely social and emotional learning. School librarians came up, and budget alignment to priorities. So how can we offer these great programs for our kids? Where's our budget? We know we've had some budget constraints and some reductions, and so how can we get back what we lost, or how can we better use the resources that we have? And so those were themes that came out from my conversations. Kind of brings me into number 3, strengthening family and community engagement. Again, I completed all the action items underneath what I had listed in my entry plan coming in. Above and beyond that, created a BIPOC Community Leaders and Allies group that meets quarterly. So our next meeting will be in the beginning of March, and I'll be sending out an email to all of the people on the list, and we'll come together there and have great conversations. Coffee and conversations with Christine, with the parents. I did 3 last in the first semester, and I've got others scheduled out now. It will be available on the website for people to sign up, and I'll be conducting those. Those are scheduled, along with more chats with Christine with staff. I was just recently on last Thursday night, I had been asked to be part of the board of directors for the Columbia River Economic Development Council. And so I said yes, I'd be happy to do that. It was through connections that I made and presentations I've made to them about school funding and levy, and they wanted somebody with an education background on their board, and so I was voted in on Thursday evening. So that was something that was not in my entry plan. Had no idea about that. And then again, oops, I missed a little bullet point there, but part of the Rotary Club here, I transferred my membership. And relationships with law enforcement. This goes back to the theme of school safety and communication, right? The school's communication around safety concerns. So establishing those relationships, there have been meetings that have been established, and going in and introducing myself and my passion to make sure that each child feels safe in our schools, and each staff member does as well. So continuing those, being dedicated to making sure I have conversations with our local law enforcement and emergency response, that really will help us when we have large emergencies or even small emergencies, and we're all talking the same language. One of the things we discovered, we were not talking the same language. When we say lockdown, we say secure, we say hold, et cetera, right? So it meant something different to everyone. And so those are things we've been working on, and our Senior Director of Communications has been working on some videos specifically around what different things mean for that are very simple and easy to access it and to have an understanding of the language we need to use in emergencies. Number 4, again, completed all action items. This is promoting a positive, collaborative, and constructive climate focused on student outcomes, right? So again, what came up was that hope for the future in conversations, stability, again, in relationships. This came from parents, students, staff, administrators, community members. Okay, it was very important. So I brought forward my mindsets that I shared and I expect throughout that system. And that's super important. You know, let's assume positive intent. Let's be kinder than necessary. Let's measure twice, cut once, right? It's really important in the budget areas. Creating systems that serve and being culturally responsive adults in our system, right? For our kids and for each other. Making sure that we have welcoming places. And those are expectations I've set forward. I've talked about them in the community report. I don't know if that's come out yet, and other venues as well. And it's something that I go back to every single time with my superintendent leadership team, who are district administrators, who really lead their different departments and expect them to role model that within their departments and expect that of the staff that they work with. It's very important if we want to move this organization forward and we want to build on that sense of hope that our community and our staff and our kids and our parents have said that they've wanted and they want to see, and they deserve that. So, and then the other piece there is building relationships with union leaders. That's very important. We are a team. We work together. The contract is our contract, right? And we are here for kids, and we need to make sure that we have positive relationships that we can move forward and create environments for student success. So, on number 5, this is the last goal for my entry plan, was to identify and analyze critical issues here in Evergreen that represent both barriers and opportunities for accelerating the performance of all students. And again, those themes come out. I did everything underneath the action items that I listed, but special education, and this is an area that was, it was brought forward with a lot of passion in some conversations, and it was a lot of voices. We're talking about special education. And so what I did is I commissioned a third-party review of special education services. As you know, we should be getting information, I would say, by sometime in February for that report. But there were things that were happening within our system of service that we needed to quickly, as I saw information and had conversations and investigated on my own, that we needed to make some changes. So I did some reorganization of leadership in that department. We are now hiring a new leadership for it, and we are focusing on communication within special education and with the roles and feedbacks. For example, our physical therapist group, BCBAs, principals. These are things that bubbled up as saying, hey, we want to be a voice. We want our voice heard in special education. We need to be communicated with. And so those are things that we are working on right away. We structured the para hiring process as part of this. As you know, paraeducators, we need paraeducators. They are essential for our schools, and they're very important to support for our students. And so at the beginning of this year, we relooked at our COO for Human Resources re-looked at it, and we were able to shorten the timeline for hiring from 5 to 3 days, which is excellent, and created some more efficient hiring practices, specific support for our paraeducators so that they could have a grace period where they were hired in a subtype position and then provided testing support, because as a paraeducator, you have to pass certain exams in order to become a paraeducator and qualify to be a permanent paraeducator. And so we have supports in place for them, and a lot of other things to make it more efficient and effective to get paraeducators on board. And of course, we are looking at our staffing model. So I know right now it's a huge, we're starting to begin the staffing season. We want to make sure that our staffing is as accurate as possible. And that was an area of concern that we had. So culture and climate, that includes communication, was another theme that falls underneath this goal. And again, looking forward, a sense of hope for the future. And that was from admin staff, parents, and students. As I go, I spent time in lunchrooms just chatting with students, or in, out at recess and those type of things. So I hear that. That's important. So those listening sessions that I've done, including the chat with Christine and the coffee and conversation with Christine, and just being out and about at school events and activities as well, and just talking with different parents. Streamlining district communication, the principals. As a principal, I know what it feels like to get lots of different emails peppered at you from all sorts of people within a district. And that was one of the things that we've worked really hard on, trying to streamline. So communication is coming from one or a couple of people to the principal, so they know exactly, what's important. Because if you get a whole bunch of emails asking you to do all these things, what's the most important, right? And so now we have a system in place to help our principals know what that is. Conducted an internal review of the impact of the budget cuts that we've experienced over the last 3 years. So we've done one, the impact of the budget cuts on employees in the operations side, the fiscal, and the teaching and learning side. That's something that we did as chief officers and myself, and coming together and looking at that and seeing what those impacts really are, and how we are moving forward and what supports do we need to look at for our employees. Provided school funding and legislative engagement, training or information for our community that was not in the entry plan. And something that bubbled up a little bit with parents and with our building administrators was the middle school bell schedule. So that came up as a little of a theme, not significantly high, but high enough for me to pay attention to. And so not changing any bell schedules, but saying what kind of supports do we need? The concern was students in the middle school leaving early to go home to take care of their younger siblings, right? And so Senior Director of Instruction and Leadership, Bobby Height, has been looking into this along with our family engagement, and I think she's got some more people on the team. I don't know off the top of my head everybody, but started exploring a program called Right at School. And I've had actually great success with them, and a sliding scale, a lot of affordability, works very closely with parents. And so we're looking at moving forward to provide alternatives for parents for childcare in the afternoons. And it may also, we're looking at possibilities for summertime and holidays, breaks, and before school could be a possibility as well. So looking into that. So that's something that's, it was bubbled up, and it's like, oh, well, what can we do to help our families and our students? Okay. Academics, obviously, is important to talk about, and I will finish on academics here. Okay, alignment of goals, plans, and departments. So this is really exciting to see. And this work was actually in progress before I came on board, but the alignment of the school improvement plans and goals with the district goals. And there is power when you focus your energy, right? And so an example you've heard about already is attendance, right? So that is one thing. They can't learn if they're not here, right? So what are we doing to help our students want to be in school and come to school and stay in school? So that's just an example. That alignment is really important. I shared at the beginning when I came was the importance of, so where's our data dashboard, right? What is something that's really easy that we can look at that shows us where our students are at and what areas we're doing great in, what areas we need to focus on for improvement. So that is in the works. and you will have a data dashboard to take a look at by this spring. Okay. Academic interventionist service model, that is being reviewed. That has come up. It's a new model this year, and so is it working? What data do we need to collect? How do we know that it's working well? And is this model what we need to continue, or we need to look at something different? Is it not being effective? And so that is in process. So it's important. We want to make sure our students get the academic interventions that they need so that they can be successful. Professional development, this is brand new. I'd heard from some classified, from staff that says, hey, why don't our classified staff have more training before school starts? And I asked the question and said, I think that's important because in my own experience, I have worked as a teacher with a classified professional paraeducator in the building, and that communication between the teacher and the para is so important, and being on the same page and having the same type of training is essential if you're going to really have an impact in that classroom. So the team has looked at, we will be adding a day for professional development for classified before the school starts. So that is in the works right now. We're moving that forward. So we're very excited about that, and I think it's really important to the academic success of our children. Guaranteed and viable curriculum, that also is a theme that's bubbled up. The theme has been that teachers and staff and administrators do believe, and I believe also that first instruction is really important. And it's really important that it's consistent across not only the grade levels within your school, but across the entire district. Because kids move around, right? And we want to make sure that we're providing the same education, the same standards for every single child, right? That's their right. That's important to do that, and essential that we do that. However, how are we implementing it, and are we respecting the professionalism of the teachers regarding the needs of their kids? And we need to take some closer look at that. And I know that's been a focus of the instructional leadership framework that our TLE department has been working on, is trying to make sure that, hey, we're going to focus on a couple of areas, and we need to make sure that we are doing it well. And so if we're not doing it well, or if it's inconsistent, we need to fix that. And so that's something that we are looking at. And the last one that bubbled up that I'll share is social and emotional learning and support. Okay. Our counselors are doing incredible jobs, and I've talked and I've had information provided to me from counselors about their daily life, at BCBAs as well. And discussions actually came key from parents and from staff about dedicating time for social and emotional learning, because it's really important that students know how to interact and that they know how to work as a team in order to engage in the lessons. They all need to know how to work together, right? That's very, very important, and learn how to control their own emotions and their own behaviors. And so dedicating some time to that is important so that you can have them engage in the learning, because if they don't know how to control themselves or to manage their own emotions, they cannot engage in the learning. And we want that to happen. And so that was something that's bubbled up as well, and we've taken a look at. So that's a lot. Again, it's not everything. It's a kind of a high-level overview of a bunch of different things that have bubbled up. But I'm really excited, and I was very happy and pleased to hear throughout my conversations about the hope moving forward and the focus on what we can do in the future together. So that is my completion of my entry plan and report back to the board. Okay, thank you.
Anyone have any questions?
Yeah, hi, Christine. On goal 1 with the board superintendent relationship, it mentions there about planning the first board retreat. Has that been planned yet? Or I know we were asked about possible dates, but.
Oh, okay. Oh, you want to answer?
Yeah, that has not been planned yet. We'll discuss that in a workshop.
Yeah.
I think this is referring to the one we did last August.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, this was referring to last August. Yeah, and there wasn't a full-on days retreat. There was I think it was a couple of hours of board work session. We called it the retreat. It was under the guidance of our prior board president and vice president.
Oh.
And so that's what that was.
I guess I was there and didn't.
It probably didn't feel like a retreat because we didn't go anywhere and we weren't, on a deck anywhere or anything like that.
And then On goal 3, the strengthen family and community engagement and enhance communication. I know it was mentioned kind of a little bit tonight during public comments, and last board meeting, public comment mentioned about a levy town hall. And I think that would really, I know we're only 2 weeks away now from the date our ballots, we've already gotten them in the mail to get them in, but I think that might have been a missed opportunity to, just kind of answer some of the questions people might have and just enhance that communication. But I don't know if there's any opportunity between now and the next 2 weeks to hold one, but.
Okay. I will check into that, but thank you.
Yeah. And, and you mentioned about classified staff wanting some training and kind of to work with the certificated teacher. And that training they're getting is the teacher they might be working with in the classroom. Are they going to be part of that training, or is it separate? Or?
We have not fully fleshed that out yet. What we did is we looked at budget moving forward and the cost to bring in, right, all of our paraeducators. And so the actual who's going to be there at what time, we have not gone through that yet. But what was shared with me by classified and teachers was, even if they're not in the same training, if they get the training that's the same, that's going to be essential and very helpful. Okay.
Yeah, I imagine they talk, between classes or breaks or whatever, but I imagine if they both understand the expectations of the other, then they would work a lot more cohesively.
So my ideal would be to have them together, but I can't promise that right now. I don't know exactly all the nuances and everything putting that together, but we are going to provide training for paras before school starts.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Any other questions?
I just want to say thank you. This is a tremendous amount of work in 6 months, and so, and thank you for the update.
Okay, thank you.
Likewise. Thank you.
All right, thank you. The next item on our agenda is our student board representative update. Nevaeh, how's it going?
Good evening, Board of Directors, President Weatherspoon. I'll be sharing the board report tonight. We had our recent SAC meeting last Thursday, and we focused on the levy, and then we discussed some things with nutrition services. The first thing we got to hear from Dr. Maloney. She was just expressing the importance of the levy and then how schools can prepare and advertise that. And then, I know you guys heard a lot tonight, but please make sure to vote on February 11th. And then the Student Advisory Committee were interested in how we can improve the distribution of the food and just figure out how we can be a little less wasteful of it. So we got to hear from Food Service Leadership Team, and we want to thank them for coming. We appreciate their time, and then we just got to ask questions, see what we could do to better support that. We learned that there's a state requirement that won't allow us to donate food, as that was our first thought and our first goal. So that was great feedback. The next meeting, we're going to talk about, with our multilingual department, about the support for newcomer students, and then we're really excited about that. And then as a senior, I had finals last week, and I'm headed into my home dance competition this weekend, so I'm pretty excited about that. And that's all I have for tonight. Are there any questions?
Can you talk a little bit more about what you mean by being less wasteful to food?
Yeah, so I know a lot of the students were talking about how, you guys, we make sure that we all get a fruit and a milk and everything. If some people take that and put it in the bin, just making sure it goes somewhere. I don't know where, maybe some people that are less fortunate or anything like that, but we were trying to figure out ways to just donate that. Anything else?
So did they say where that food was going, when you put it in the bin?
They did not. They just said that we're not allowed to donate it because of state law.
Okay.
Yeah. Alrighty.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next item on our agenda is our good news report. Hello, Craig.
Good evening. Hey, Greg.
Good evening, Board President Witherspoon, Board of Directors, Superintendent Maloney. Thank you as always for letting me share the good news with you, and we do have a lot because it's been that little December break, so there's plenty of to share. I want to start off with a donation from the Grace Church. They donated $20,000. They collected this money on their Christmas Eve collection, and they gave us, Washougal, Vancouver, and Camus's Family Resource Centers. They split that collection. So that is, a very large donation from them. So we thank them on social media and wanted to thank them here as well. Cascade Middle School had a Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. assembly. They have this every year. What's great about this assembly is it's really student-led. They have music, they have chorus, it's interactive, but as you can see from the pictures, the students really lead this assembly. And it's filled with speeches, not just from Dr. Martin Luther King, but from them. And the music was really great. I enjoyed it a lot. We had so many music performances in the last 2 months. I know we've mentioned it before that these are levy supported. Pacific Middle School and Chehala Middle School, they do this every year. They had performances at the Vancouver Mall, both chorus and orchestra. I want to mention that we had a video showcase from our high schools. They actually came to our district office here and performed in our studio. Our communications team put this together as a kind of video showcase that we shared both on social media, YouTube, and also on the Comcast channel. Mountain View High School has the annual Jolly Jamboree. I know a lot of you are aware of this. If people haven't been able to enjoy this, please go next year. They have 2 performances at night, but the one that I love is the one that they have during the day, where you see that one here. It's a packed house because those are our elementary school students that get to come over and watch this explosion of music. And all the band members in the orchestra, I know we said we had 5 different kinds of bands, and I don't know them all, so, but they're all there, and they're all on the basketball court there. And since, especially in the new Mountain View High School, it's such a spectacle to see, and the elementary school kids really, really get a kick out of it. I'm going to skip over to the next page. There we go. I wanted to highlight some field trips. This was a cool field trip from Illahee Elementary School along with their Union High School buddies. They went to PetSmart, and you think, wow, that's weird. But it's not, because they learned so much about animals there. I just thought it was a really cool thing, and they shared this with us, and you could see. And then we heard that a lot of the students, the Illahee students, then took their families to PetSmart to kind of show them what they learned. So Home Choice Academy had a game night that they smartly combined with their book fair. So kids got to play some games and also pick up some books. Board Director Gary Wilson was there. There's his picture. I took it. Columbia Springs continues to be a field trip that so many of our elementary schools go on and really enjoy. And the thing about Columbia Springs is they could go multiple times and still learn many different things. And this is a field trip. And of course, our field trips are levy supported. Some recognitions. I wanted to end with, 2 things. It's National School Board Recognition Month. So again, thank you to our board. We did post these wonderful pictures and a post on social media to recognize you and your dedication to our students. And finally, Legacy High School. Congratulate them. They won a cultural kickoff award, which was given out by the Association of Washington School Principals. And they got this award in recognition of creating a welcoming, positive school culture through intentional planning and collaboration between students and staff. And the highlighted activities that the person who presented the award said it included the growth of their ASB program and Legacy's focus on listening and acting on student voice. So this was the first year they gave out these awards, I think, and Legacy was one of the schools to receive it in our state. So, any questions? Great, thank you so much.
Thank you. The next item on our agenda is an information item. It is our December 2024 financial statement. After that, next item on our agenda is board comments. Anyone have comments tonight?
Sure. I just got my calendar out for that. The WASDA Federal Relations Network is on its way to Washington, D.C. this weekend to advocate for schools. They have the district and statewide data that I built for them to do the advocacy, and are in good hands with an awful lot of optimism about what's possible. I was in their meeting. I was in that meeting today, where they were organizing the stance that they wanted to take, and recognizing that with the new administration coming in, that the reorganizations and things happening around there would color the mood in the room. And so they were working on just making their advocacy as empathetic as possible and as relationship building as possible, especially with the folks who work for the Department of Education. And I think this year they're going to see the FCC as well about E-rate. So that was that. And I also had an opportunity to go in with Dr. Maloney to Pacific Middle School. And I got to say, I was really heartened by what I saw there and by the structure that Dr. Maloney put into the school visit, which was that we were just tagging along. There were no presentations to prepare or anything serious like that. Just wanted to see how things were at the school, and based on my experience there, things are pretty good at the school. It's still middle school, so there's that. But I'm really impressed with the work that they're doing to support kids, and the improvements that they're making along those lines. And I'll defer the rest of it for, yeah.
I'd like to thank our two citizens that came with public comment tonight, and also on the TLE presentation, seeing 450 students in fifth grade band, it makes me really proud that we were able to keep that in our budget this past year as we added it back in. I still lament about the elementary librarians, but at least fifth grade band we added in, and a lot of students are taking advantage of that. So.
Julie? I will say that given that this has been such a really uncertain time, and there's a lot of change, and things are just sort of not certain, not settled, I want to thank our staff for sort of being the first line of defense for our kids and being there, putting kids first. You guys, I watch you every day. My kids are in these schools, and we really appreciate you. Anybody else? So now the board will go into a brief recess. The time is 6:53, and we will go into a recess to sign documents, and then a workshop where we will discuss a legislative update, a resolution affirming the provision for safe, welcoming, and inclusive schools for all students, and board protocols and calendaring.